Okay, so then we have the items up here under the cog. So you have your different items up top. We're going to talk about each of these items in more detail when we do the part of the course when we start a new company file, because these items are going to be items that you typically deal with when you set up the new company file. So if I go into this cog, for example, we've got your company, the lists, the tools, the profile. Now, there's a difference if you're a bookkeeper, if you're an accountant, and then you say, I'm going to go work for a business, and they use QuickBooks. Then what's going to happen is it'll be like this system. The QuickBooks system will already be set up. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to figure out what has been done in the past and how you can continue and be consistent doing the similar thing in the future, changing things as needed to fix certain things, but basically trying to keep things constant. That means the chart of accounts been set up already. That means you already have the QuickBooks file set up, and everything's already there. It's already up and running. So that's similar to the first part of the course that we'll talk about here. Then you might also be a bookkeeper, in which case you're going to set up the QuickBooks file either from scratch or from a prior accounting system. In that case, you're going to have to, or you might be in a situation where you're a specialist in fixing problems. Their accounting system is a mess. Nothing ties out. They've got everything's all messed up. So then you're going to have to deal with some of these foundational types of items, which will be like the chart of accounts. We want to get a more specific chart of accounts. We might have different users that will be using the software. This meaning you might have different people accessing the software, and you might want to give different rights to those people as they access the software to implement internal controls being more important as you increase the size of the business. Custom form styles. So the forms are the data input forms, but also could be forms that we give externally, such as invoices. So we might want to customize them for that, and possibly to help us with our data input for tracking purposes. The chart of accounts, which is going to be the first underlying foundational thing you're going to need to put together, because those are the accounts that will have the money going into them when we create the financial statements, balance sheet, income statement. Payroll settings, if you're dealing with payroll in the system. Workers' comp, if you have to set up the workers' comp. Get the desktop app. Now, this is that app. We might talk about this later because it's kind of cool. They've been working on this thing, but I still think it's not the default way that people are going to use QuickBooks Online. They're going to go online and learn this web-based system, which is probably the best way you want to do it. But the app is pretty neat, so I might look at it. Additional info, and then we've got the lists. Now, this term, lists, is once again kind of a hangover, a pullover from not just accounting in general usually, but the actual software. In other words, the QuickBooks software used to have the old drop-down lists up top. That's the wrong thing. It used to have the old drop-down lists up top, kind of like Microsoft Office used to have before they had the ribbon. And they used to put these things under the drop-down that said lists, right? So we learn this, we use this terminology of basically lists. Now you have all lists, you have products and services. Those are the things that we sell that are going to go onto the invoices or sales receipts. We got the reoccurring transactions, so we can make a transaction that reoccurs and automate it in that way. It's kind of a specialized area. Attachments, that we could have attachments that we're going to add like bills and stuff to our data input, which could be useful for audit purposes or for data input for taxes at the end of the year. Custom fields, tags, which is a way to help us to sort data. We have a whole nother course or section specializing on tags and custom formatting for that as classes as well. And then rules, and then you've got the tools. We can order checks. Most people are kind of online with electronic transactions, but if you're still writing checks, you got that. Import data, import desktop data. So this might be important if you're starting a new company file, which again is kind of a special area in and of itself, although we will touch on it in the second half of the course when we do our practice problem. Export data, reconcile, budgeting, audit, and so on and so forth. So we'll get into more of these accounting and settings items when we do the second half of the course, so that we can look at the settings that are the default settings when you first set up a QuickBooks file, and then see which of those settings you might want to change and when. So right now we're going to imagine we're in a situation where the settings, of course, are already set up, and we're going to keep them as is as we focus in on our forms.